This is a proper suburban neighborhood. It has been so nice to walk. Toaster. Let's give him a second. Okay, I think he went further away. And now the other doggies are barking. Oh my gosh. Hey everyone, it's Natalie, also known as Knitty Natty. Welcome to episode 203 of the Love in Stitches podcast. It's been a couple of weeks since I have podcasted, so I have lots of project progress to show you, as well as some other exciting things today. But let me first tell you where I am. So last you saw me, I was in Colorado at a friend's wedding. We then made our way halfway across the country to New York for Rhinebeck. And then I have been spending the last few days, and I will spend the next few days where I am currently, which is in New Jersey with my friends Amy and Ian. Kent is here, Toaster is here. This is a place that we used to come to all of the time when we were living in New York City, because it's only a couple of hours away, and hang out with our friends. They have a beautiful home. As you can see, I'm here in Amy's yarn room. She allowed me to use it today to podcast. I wish I always had a space like this to podcast in. I'm in like a big comfy chair. We have the beautiful yarn behind me, a little like shawl ladder thing going on. It's just a really lovely space and so much natural light. Today is a beautiful day. It's about 65 to 70 degrees, and it is almost November, which is wild. By the time you're watching this, it will be November. But that being said, since it's a nice day, there is a lot of activity going on outside. There was somebody working on their lawn. I think they just finished. If you hear any background noise, that might be it. I also tried to convince any one of the 3 dogs that are here to come sit with me right here, and nobody wanted to come. So I'm all alone. Right now. Maybe they will come and join me later, but you also may hear them barking. In fact, I can guarantee that we're going to have a couple of doggy interruptions at some point. I think that's everything at the top of the episode, so let's get into projects. Whether we're visiting with friends or on the road, there is one thing that I don't want to spend my time on: cooking. Thank you so much to Factor for sponsoring today's podcast. With Factor, I can enjoy eating well without the hassle. I just get online to pick out my meals, and then they're delivered to my door, fresh and ready to eat. Just pop them in the microwave, and they're ready in 2 minutes. Factor's meals are fresh and never frozen. They go straight from the fridge. Pop this off, put a couple holes in it, into the microwave, and onto your plate. With Factor, you can rest assured that you're making a sustainable choice. They offset 100% of their delivery emissions, and they source renewable electricity for their production sites and offices. Head to factor75.com or click the link below and use code NATTY50 to get 50% off your first Factor box. Now I can spend less time in the kitchen and more time knitting. Okay, first up, let's talk about my blanket. So I have 3 projects that I'm going to show today that I have been putting in, similar amounts of time, I guess, on. There are definitely some projects that have been lingering, and something that we are doing in the Love in Stitches membership this month is making a plan before November begins, selecting just a few whips, 2 to 3 whips, and making a plan to finish those in the month of November so that we kind of clear off needles and hooks in preparation for Advent season. December is a really fun time for projects. I have a ton of Advents coming in. I have 1, maybe 2 Advent projects planned to do, but I also just like to use December, oh my gosh, to do like holiday projects. It's just a whole lot of fun. So that being said, I have some projects that I've been working on for these past 2 weeks, but I am kind of thinking about what I'm going to be doing in the month coming up. All right, so I am absolutely obsessed with my blanket right now. I took a break from working on it for about a week because we were in Rhinebeck. I'm really busy doing different things with like the actual shows and then hanging out with friends. Then we were in New York City. I'll be sharing more about that in a little bit. So it really wasn't the time or place for a blanket project like this. So once I got here to my friend Amy's, I definitely have taken advantage of having a lot of time over the weekend to just sit and hang out. Also, she has a ball winder in Swift, and I had a lot of yarn that needed to be wound. So let me just first, actually I need my project page up here, because what I've been doing with my yarns, I actually have done a lot of minis, and all of the minis had little yarn labels, but then they don't have a lot of yarn left over, maybe 6 or so grams left. And so I've been hanging on to the leftover yarn, but I haven't been hanging on to the labels. That's because for each and every one of these, I have taken a picture, I've put it on my Ravelry project page, I've added a caption with the colorway name, I've added in the description box, is that what it's called, a description box? The notes on Ravelry, I've added the colorway name. So if I need to go back and figure out what color my little leftovers are, I will be able to find them. If it's a full skein, I think I have one in here. If it's a full skein, like these two that I worked up yesterday, I think. I feel like Kent turned off my autofocus. I don't know what's going on here. But if it's like these two, I am keeping the labels and I'm kind of wrapping them around the cake here. And that way, whether I use this for, still in focus here? I'm trying to, I feel like I've done something weird to the camera. Anyway, whether I use these for an entirely different project or use it in my TBD United States of America blanket, I will know exactly what they are, or if I give them away to somebody. I know there's some colors that, while I really like for a hexagon in my blanket, they're not something that I would continue to use on another project, and they would be better suited going to somebody who loves that color. So let me pull up. I have done quite a bit in the last 2 weeks. Really, it's been, I think, 2.5 weeks since I last showed this. So let me find my marker. I guess I'm going to be switching over from very cute Halloween markers to some Christmas ones here really soon. This is a, why isn't it flipping? This is a Christmas, iced Christmas. Really? It has been, when I have 1 week off from podcasting, I really can't get it together. Halloween. This is a Halloween stitch marker, a pumpkin cookie, like an iced pumpkin cookie. Very, very cute. I want to say it's from Simply Serving, but I've had it for a bit, so I can't quite remember. I did place a Simply Serving Halloween and Christmas stitch marker order, and so that should be waiting for me when I get to my parents' house in a couple of weeks. I'm very excited. All right, so where we were before. So in the past couple of weeks, I have, let me see if I can back up a little. I have completed the second ring around this blanket. It's a little hard to tell where the rings are right now, but this purple right here is the center. And then the first ring was 6 hexies around the purple. I'm going to try not to hit my mic. And then the second ring was, I want to say, 12 hexies around the 6 previous. So now I am on to, it's still probably a little hard, so I'm on to the third ring around. And this one I'm really not sure if it's going to be double the previous round, so 24 hexies, or even more than that. Everything is like a slightly different. Somebody's walking their dog, so Toaster is going a little crazy. This is a proper suburban neighborhood. It has been so nice to walk Toaster. Let's give him a second. Okay, I think he went further away. And now the other dog is barking. Oh my gosh. All right, the dogs are quiet again. So I finished up my A Chick That Knits minis. When I was in Oklahoma, I got to go to Tammy's studio and visit A Chick That Knits, and they were so generous and gave me a bunch of mini skeins. So I think I have like 8 or 9 from A Chick That Knits in here, because I also bought one at one of the yarn stores in Oklahoma. So where we last left off right here is from A Chick That Knits. And then this is my first new one. So I'm just going to be reading here from my Ravelry page. This one is called Brambleberry. This one also A Chick That Knits. It's called Paris. Then this one is Paris Gardens. So that's kind of fun that they were next to each other like that. And then this is the last one from A Chick That Knits, and this is Coffee Break. It's a really pretty colorway. So then we moved from Oklahoma into Texas. So the first store that we went to in Texas was Papillon, and this colorway is named after the store, and it's called Papillon, and it's by Barker Wool, who also lives in Amarillo, where the store is. And then I got back into mini skeins, but these mini skeins are all from DFW Fiber Fest. So this one here is from Euphoria Knits. They are now in Colorado, but they had lived in Texas up until like a week or so before DFW Fiber Fest, and I got it in Texas, so I included it in my, I'm including everything in order. Like all of my states are not going to be together. So all of the Texas yarns are together now, but if I go back to Texas, they'll be in another spot in the blanket. So I'm literally just going in order of what I actually visited. And I believe, you know what? I don't know if I did these in order of the booths I visited at Fiberfest because I honestly can't remember, but Euphoria Knits, and this was a leftovers number 38. So what they do is they take the leftover dyes that are like, I guess, leftover from when they're dyeing full skeins, and they just have a pan of mini skeins and throw them on there and have all these beautiful colors that can't be replicated. So I think that's such a pretty color, and I'm glad I snagged it. And then these two are both from Treehouse Knits. I think they're in Austin, Texas. I got it at DFW Fiber Fest, and this was a mini skein set. It was 4 mini skeins. It was called Meet Me at the Treehouse, and these solids were also included in it. So it was 2 variegateds, 2 solids, and I just decided I didn't really want to put the solids into the blanket, so I'm just hanging on to them, and they'll be good for heels and toes or other scrappy projects. But I did want to put these 2 into the blanket as Texas yarns. So they're both called Meet Me at the Treehouse because they came in a sock set. Then we move over to California, where I visited Hands-On Knitting Center. That video tour is actually coming up next week, but I got this colorway from a local dyer called Peekaboo Yarns, and this colorway is called Sand and Sea. So I felt like that was pretty fitting for California, even if the area of California we were in at the time was much more mountainous than sea and sand. Next up, we are moving into the New Mexico yarns that I got when we went on the Enchanted Yarn Crawl, and also to what was it called? It was a wool festival, but I'm blanking on the name right now. Here goes another dog. So I've just got 2 of my New Mexico yarns in, but I've got a bunch of them wound up and ready to go tonight. So I haven't been doing my one a day as I have been because I've just been needing a simple project, I think, after all the busyness of the last couple weeks. So I've just put in a ton of Hexies into here. And now I'm getting to the point where I'm like, oh, I could probably catch up on all the yarns I have currently purchased. The last 2 states we went to, really the last state we went to and visited and did a yarn store tour was New Mexico. And then I did get a couple of yarns in New York at the New York Sheep and Wool Festival that I want to include in here, but then that's it. And we're not doing a ton of traveling for the rest of this year. So essentially I can catch up on this blanket. And then as we begin traveling full time again in the new year, I can add into the blanket as I go rather than have totes and totes of yarn like I have for this entire first 4 months of our trip. So I think that will be a really good thing. So I'm feeling really motivated to get everything added in that I currently have. And I'm having a great time with it. So 2 more here. So this one I bought in New Mexico. It's a New Mexico inspired colorway, but the dyer is out of Oregon. This is Knitted Wit, and it is part of her National Parks collection. And this is the Petroglyph National Monument colorway. So I bought it in New Mexico. It is a Oregon dyer. And then last one for this week, this is Zia Wools. And this one I got at the yarn store at Nob Hill in Albuquerque. Oh, this one I got in at Yarning in Albuquerque, the yarn store at Nob Hill in Albuquerque. This is a local dyer, and this colorway is called Desert Vibes. So my New Mexico colors that are coming up are all very either based on trees or based on the desert or just kind of like purples and golds and like beautiful sunset colors. So I am excited about that part of the blanket. So let me see. I'm going to count how many I've done since the last podcast. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So that's great. That's pretty much close to a daily Hexie, even if I didn't actually do them in a day. And I probably have 6 more New Mexico colorways. Had a lot of fun. If you haven't seen that video of the yarn crawl and the festival, that one was a really, really good one. And then I have maybe 2 or 3 New York yarns that I will add in. So that's not a whole lot. And then we'll just be going with the flow. Now, I have thought a little bit more about how I want the shape of this to be. And I actually think it's going to be cool as a sort of circular-ish blanket because I think it's going to get very big. Right now, it already fits like over my lap. I mean, just from like hip to knee. And we have only been to about 12 states so far. So I imagine it's going to get a lot bigger. I have thought about, continuing in a circular fashion, adding in rings around and then eventually going off into corners. And the beauty of this blanket is I can do that at any time. The way that this is joined is really forgiving. You can kind of do it any way you want. So right now I'm really just enjoying going in rings. And I honestly might just continue doing that and just have a really interesting blanket shape. I'm sure I could add a border afterwards, kind of mimicking the last row a little bit, doing like decreases in the dipping corners and increases in the pointy corners and just kind of tie it all together. But I don't even know if it will need that. I think it's just a unique and interesting blanket, and I am having such a great time with it. Next up, I have a project that I did think I would finish in October, but that did not happen, and that's okay. This, I think, will be one of the ones that I want to finish up in November, just so that it doesn't linger for too long, but I feel like it won't be really too much of a problem because it's not something that I work on every single day. But when I do work on it, because I'm out and about or doing something, it tends to get a lot of work done. So this is a Musselburgh hat by Isolde Teague. It is one of many that I have made, and this one is for Kent. So this colorway is a Beetlejuice colorway. And it's really fun. So I'm using a self-striping sock yarn. You can see that it's not giving me even stripes on the hat because the yarn is dyed to knit up evenly on socks. So don't fret. It is looking this way in the hat because of the number of stitches that I have. Do I have the yarn label? I do. Okay, so this yarn is from Night Owl Fibers, who is a Texas dyer. I got this one at Knitty Natty, and the colorway is Wicked Beetlejuice. She also has some really, really fun Christmas colorways that are kind of, some are traditional and some are a little bit different. So if you like self-striping socks and you're looking for something, maybe get that directly from her or from Knitty Natty. They probably have a few left. So with the Musselburgh hat, you're starting with a small number of stitches and then increasing. So you can see that my striping is different on the crown than it is down here. But now that I've gotten down here, it is a bit more even. So some colors are getting, well, actually all colors are getting 2 rows on some parts of the hat and then 1 row on other parts of the hat. So I'm kind of getting a hat that looks different on each side. See how this one has a lot more white? The white yarn is getting 2 stripes, whereas the gray is getting 1. And then if I flip it, the gray is getting 2 stripes and the white is getting 1. So I have to say, for myself, I don't think I would love a hat that is striping this way because I am such a person who likes evenness. So I would like even stripes, and you can achieve that by using scraps or mini skeins and just doing a set number of rows. I did maybe 3 rounds per color when I made Kent's Musselburgh or Pokemon Musselburgh hat, and it turned out great. but Kit likes this, and you may like this too. And so that's great. But this is the adult medium on 8 stitches per inch size. So I think I have like 140 stitches. So when you do the math on, actually, we don't have to do the math ourselves. Let's get out a calculator. I did this before, but now I can't remember. So yeah, I think there's like 140 stitches. I'm going to divide that by 64 because I think that's pretty standard for a medium sock. Oh, I did something wrong because I got 35. That's not right. Okay, 140 divided by 64 equals 2.18. So it's about the same as, that doesn't seem right either. What I'm trying to get at is, oh no, that does seem right. Okay. I shouldn't be doing math on a day like today. Essentially, each one round of this hat is like 2.8 rounds of a sock, which is why you're not seeing multiple row stripes on some of these colors. If you were knitting a sock, you would probably get 4 to 5 rounds of each color, which looks a lot more even. So yeah, I just wanted to say that because I didn't want anyone to be like, oh gosh, self-striping yarns don't look good, but it's just because of the length. But I think that I do actually like holding it back, like seeing it further back, I think does make it look a little bit more cohesive. So anyway, I got lots of knitting done on this while we were in the city. So you can see from my stitch marker down, this is another Simply Serving. And I did get more like this, but Christmas themed. So I'm very excited to get those when I get home so I can use it for my December projects. So I am about halfway done with this hat. I need to weigh my yarn too and just check in on where I'm hitting around 50 grams, but I just measured it before I started filming and I have about 6 inches from the crown. So I like to put in a light bulb stitch marker right here once I'm finished with the crown increases. That way I have a really clear point to measure from every single time. I know from making past Musselburgh hats that Kent needs about 13 total inches between the crowns. So after I reach 13 inches of plain straight knitting, I will start decreasing again. And then I had somebody ask me this week, do I use magic loop for the whole hat? Because I do use magic loop, the magic loop method, when I start the hat, all the way till I get to my full stitch count, but then I switch over to 16-inch needles. So you can see I'm on 16-inch needles right now, and I will do that for the entire straight part. And then once I get to the decreases on the other side, I'll do the first few rounds of decreases on 16-inch needles until I can't anymore, until I like run out of space on the needles and the stitches are stretching, and then I'll switch back over to magic loop, which has been working really, really well. So it makes for a nice portable project. So I think I will be giving myself maybe a daily goal on this here for November. That's probably something on my to-do list for later today. I can share that in next week's podcast, but probably making a daily goal so that I can get this guy finished up soon. It won't be finished for Halloween because that's tomorrow, but it will get finished here in the next few weeks, I think. Now, my last project here definitely looks the most different since the last time you saw it. And this is the Geo Gradient MKAL. So it's the mystery shawl, and I am working on clue 2. So as of this point, all of the clues are out for the shawl. So if you're knitting along and you're looking at everything, there is no mystery left to it. But I know that there are some people that are still, wanting to finish up one clue at a time before they look at the next one. So here's your warning for the rest of this segment. I'm going to be showing and talking about my clue 1, my clue 2. I'm also going to be giving some thoughts on clues 3 and 4. So while I don't have clues 3 and 4 to show, I am going to be talking about them. I'll try to give another warning before I start to do that. So this is your last chance to skip ahead to the acquisitions if you don't want to see this. So I am so happy with how this is coming out. So let me just give you a quick look here. So I have worked a modified clue 1 from Miss Blaine. That is her a Ravelry project or Ravelry username, and I've linked it in my project page. So you can click directly on it and go straight to this woman's project page and see all of the notes for the clue one. The change that I made from hers is that I didn't start hers has basically like this triangle here and the one opposite of it start with the same color. So these two start with the same color, these two start with the same color. I didn't want to do that because I didn't want there to be anything to allude to what the original clue looked like. And so I wanted mine to be very different. So I made sure to start each of the sections with a different color, go in a different color order. And I think it came out really, really cool. I had a lot of fun doing this section. I actually thought about, hang on just a second. Sorry about that. I had to cough. But I actually thought about doing a whole Advent blanket like this and just casting on, it's basically a miter triangle, just casting on a bunch of stitches and then knitting until the yarn is gone and then doing the next color. I don't know. I think that could be super duper cool. So where I was last week is I had picked up all around that center square and I was working, you can see my cute little pumpkin. I want to say this one's also Simply Serving. It's a big week for Simply Serving stitch markers, but I finished working all 4 colors for that kind of garter border. I really didn't mind doing the garter border in the round. When you're doing garter stitch in the round, you knit 1 round and then purl 1 round. And I really found it quite enjoyable. So I was really pleased with that. And that's going to come into play in just a minute because I kind of have some ideas of how to change the shawl into a blanket, perhaps. I still don't know what I'm going to do yet. So then we moved on to clue 2. And I am actually really close to finishing clue 2. I thought that I might try to get it finished up later today because I only have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have a quarter of a repeat and then 1 more full repeat to do. And so I probably won't get it done tonight, but there is a possibility that I do. So let me show you the one side that I finished. And I've also modified clue 2. I think with everything going on with clue 1, myself, like many others, have felt really empowered to make changes to make this into something that I love. That's definitely not a way that I've approached this MKAL ever in the past, but it's been a different experience and it's been really enjoyable. Gosh, I need to tighten that up. Brianna told me that I need to tighten my end caps because she found one had fallen off when we were in our Rhinebeck house. Okay, so here is what my clue 2 looks like. And unfortunately, I can't really spread it out too much, but it's sort of like an arrow coming off of the center square. And it looks like this. So the changes that I made, there's 2 changes that I made. One, I eliminated the eyelets. I just didn't care for the eyelets. I love lace, but I didn't like the way that the eyelets looked just all in a row like that. I don't know, I just didn't care for them. So I eliminated the eyelets. So you can see my color A is just stockinette. Literally just knit and purl, nothing special. I did the color B and D the same, where it's reverse stockinette. And then I added baubles to color C. And I didn't make that up. I got that again from the person who did the modification for clue 1, Miss Blaine. She wrote exactly how to do these baubles. They are I-cord baubles. They are not so bad to make. They do take a while, but I've also found them enjoyable too. So I think when I first learned how to do a bauble, the only way I knew how to do it was where you flip back and forth like knitting and purling. So every couple of stitches, you have to turn your entire piece. That takes forever. It's no fun. This way of doing it is so much better. Instead, you make 5 stitches out of 1 stitch. That's generally how a bauble starts, is making more stitches out of 1 stitch. And then you slide them back to the left-hand needle and knit them again. Slide them back to the left-hand needle, knit them again, and then bind them all off. So you're never having to flip back and forth. You're always staying on the right side. So with those 2 modifications, I have a fairly different looking clue 2, but I really like how it came out. It's just very pretty, and I love how these colors are working up together. I was with Addie, who's Ruby and Roses, who dyed this yarn, and she was like just looking at this and loving it. And she's like, I think I have to make one now too. So it's just funny. Even the yarn dyer sees their own yarn and absolutely loves it. So on the other side, I'm doing the same thing. So I've made it through 2 of the bobble rows. So I have 1 more of the reverse stockinette in color D, and then 1 more repeat of that whole thing to go. And this has just been really enjoyable and fun and easy to bring around with me, even the bobbles. As long as I get the row started off right, it's really not so bad. I have to look at it, of course. It's not good TV knitting, but it's not bad like conversation knitting. So it's been really enjoyable. Now, when clue 3, okay, I'm about to talk about clues 3 and 4. So as this is where you need to leave us and meet us in the next section, see you there. But I'm going to talk about clue 3. So when clue 3 came out, I was like, wow, this is so cool. I saw the pictures of it first. I had no idea how to do it. I have since gone and looked through the instructions, and I saw that it is a lot of slip stitching. And were you with me in the slip extravaganza decade era? I really just don't like slip stitching. I haven't tried out the stitch pattern yet. Fair. I haven't tried it out to know if I will like it. And I think it is a very beautiful texture, but I'm just not sure that it goes with what I'm doing here. I think it goes with the shawl, but I've already made so many changes on mine that I'm like, 1, I'm not sure I want to physically make those stitches. I don't think I'm going to enjoy it. I've heard a lot of people say it takes a long time. And then 3, I just don't think that I like making a shawl. I'm not really sure yet. Like, I'm still thinking about it. Like, do I want to make this a shawl? Would I wear this as a shawl? Or would it be more worth my time to make this into an item that I feel like I'm going to use more, which would be a lap blanket. I know not everyone has a use for a lap blanket, but I really like a lap blanket, something really nice or really light and just small to put over your lap to keep you warm, because sometimes I just want to wear shorts and not pants, but I don't want to be super warm. And especially traveling right now, having a really small blanket has been great. My quadrophenia that I made earlier this year has been the perfect lap blanket, and I kind of think I could get this to a similar-ish size. I know I don't have quite the same amount of yarn because I used an Advent, and Advents are they like 5 skeins of yarn? Here, we can do math again. Isn't it always fun doing live math? Okay, so 20 grams, that's how much a mini skein weighs, times 24 is 480 grams. So that is almost 5 skeins, because that would be 500 grams. So I have 4 skeins here, which means I don't have as much yarn. So it wouldn't even be as big of a blanket. But am I okay with that? I still don't know. But this is what I have thought about. I've thought about, after completing clue 2, maybe putting it on some tubing and blocking it and just seeing how big it is, and then potentially squaring things off. So I think I could pick up stitches from the edges of this second clue and kind of make a triangle so that everything becomes a square again. And I would just leave these stitches live. So make a triangle here, make a triangle on the other side. And I could do that with like garter stripes, kind of reminiscent of what this looks like here in the center. And then I could have stitches all the way around and just keep doing what I was doing here in clue 1 with these. I don't know. I don't know if that would just be like so boring that I would never want to work on it because it would be a ton of stitches and a ton of just garter, or if that would be nice to just have something easy to work on. And then would I like the final product? Would I like having a small square blanket? I'm still not 100% sure. So in the meantime, I am chugging along on clue 2 to get that finished, and then I will figure it out from there. And as soon as I do, of course, I will let you know. Now, I purchased quite a few things over the last 2 weeks because we were at Rhinebeck and Cakepalooza and Indie Untangled and Woolen Folk. But all of those items are included in my second Rhinebeck video that went out last week. Brianna and Amy and I all did a haul together. We did a little show and tell of everything that we purchased, which was really fun. And it seems like y'all really enjoyed it too. It was a little more laid back kind of a video than my usual style. And I just really enjoyed it. So I don't have those things to show you again because they're already there in a video, but I did get a really lovely package from Pretty Twisted Yarns that I am excited to show you. These were sent to me by Teresa, and I'm really excited now because I have an affiliate link with her, which means that when you purchase from Pretty Twisted Yarns using my link, you not only support a yarn dyer, but you also get to, or are able to support me as well. So I want to show you these beautiful yarns, but first, this is the cute, so cute, Pretty Twisted Yarns logo. What is my pinky doing there? A little twitch. This is her logo, and it's so cute. This is a sticker. A couple of stickers came in my packet along with some tea. I always love it when dyers include a little extra, and this one is pumpkin spice because my all these yarns are part of the Halloween collection. I believe all of them are. And Teresa is out of Central Florida. She's also a 11 Stitches member. And if you are 11 Stitches member, either this term or starting in December, we are going to get a special colorway that is just dyed for 11 Stitches members from Teresa. So we have a lot of exciting things going on with Pretty Twisted Yarns. So why don't I start by showing you these colorways? So this one is called Pinky Promise, and it is the most perfect bright pink, and it has sparkle in it, but I've never seen sparkle quite like this in a yarn. Can you see that? It's really, really, really like apparent. It is right there. You can see it, but it's also kind of wrapped around the yarn like it's its own ply. I've only ever seen it where, I guess a stellina, where it's a little more mixed in. And this one is the Stardust base, 75% extra fine superwash merino, 20% nylon, and then 5% lurex. So this is a fingering weight. I think it's really neat, really different, very interesting, and so fun and perfectly pink, which I love. Next up, this is her 8515 superwash merino. Looks like a 4-ply. And this one is just a nice solid black, but it's called Don't Fear the Reaper. So if you're looking for a nice solid black to go with, I don't know, maybe a nice hot pink, that is going to be a great one to get. And these two would pair really well together. For something a little different, this one is an all-over speckle. It's also the 8515 base, which is called Lavish. There we go. And this one is called Lost in the Maze, but maze is spelled like corn. Maze. We just went and saw Shucked for the second time this weekend in New York City, so it's kind of funny actually that this was one of the colorways that she picked because I picked this yarn up in New Jersey, so after I went to New York City, but that would have been the perfect thing to work on while watching Shucked because corn maze. So this will be good for Thanksgiving and November as well. This is another base. It is the Plump Sock base. It's also 8515, but it is a 2-ply high twist, which I am starting to really like the 2-ply high twist. This one is called Spooky, but Keep It Pink. Very into that. I love a good pink. And then I think I saved the best for last because I really like this one. This is a sock set on the Lavish base, and this is the Witching Hour sock set. How good is this? I did not get to all of my Halloween yarns this year, so I feel like I might be casting on something on Halloween or just working on something on Halloween and keeping it spooky for a little bit longer until it's time. It's time to celebrate the next holiday. So this is 1 100-gram skein, 2 20-gram mini skeins. So that's what I got. I am a big fan of all of these beautiful colorways, but you can just see a sampling of what Pretty Twisted Yarns has. So if you like any of these colorways or want to go check out Teresa's shop, I'll have the link down below. Just a reminder, it's an affiliate link, which just means it's the same cost to you, but it does benefit me a little bit when you are able to shop through my link. And Natalie, I really should have looked at the details of this before, but I'm pretty sure that you can also save on your first order when you use that link. It automatically applies a discount code for you. So I'll be sure to check that. And if I'm wrong, I'll put it here. But if I'm right, then there will be nothing here and you can just go and shop that link. Thank you, Teresa, for sending these to me. I really appreciate it. And if you're a Love and Stitches member or you're planning on joining us in December when we open, you will have access to our special holiday color that Teresa's going to be dyeing. We have some interesting sock questions today, so let's just get right into it. The first question is from Becky. Love your videos and look forward to them every week. Thank you. My question is regarding socks. When I knit the cuff, 2x2 ribbing, it always becomes stretched out and loose after wearing them. Is that normal, or should I be adding extra stitches in the cuff? If so, how much extra? Okay, that's a very good question. So I have a couple of follow-ups to your question. First, I'm wondering, how long are you knitting the cuff? Because if you're only doing about 10 rounds, which would equal maybe an inch or so, that's probably not enough cuff to maintain like the integrity of the ribbing. So ribbing is a really interesting fabric because it expands and it shrinks back. 2x2 ribbing, it doesn't do it as well as 1x1 ribbing, so you're probably not going to get as much cling from 2x2 ribbing as you would if you changed it up. You could even do a 2x1 ribbing, so knit 2, purl 1. You get a similar look, but you get a little more expanding and contracting. But if 2x2 is what you like, I would first look at how much you're doing, because if you only do about 10 rounds, even 15, you're probably not going to get much of a stretch and expand. That's the same word, stretch and expand and contract. But if you do about 20 rounds, that's usually my standard for a sock. Unless it's a super shorty sock, then you're going to get a little more cling. The other thing is that maybe you need to go down a needle size. Maybe just your general gauge overall is not quite tight enough for a sock. We do want a decently tight gauge on a sock. For me, that's looking like anywhere from 7.5 to 8.5 stitches per inch, depending on the type of sock yarn that you're using. Last thing here is stitch count. So I would say that adding more stitches is probably not going to get you the fit that you want. That's probably not the issue. You may actually want to look at reducing your stitch count for your cuff. So the cuff is the area of the sock that we want to have the most negative ease. And negative ease is where the final product measures smaller than the area of your body that it's going to fit you. So you can measure around your leg where you are going to have the cuff sitting, and you can reduce that by, I would say, at least 25%. So like 75%. A 75% measurement of your leg would be what you want for the cuff. Maybe even 70. You kind of have to play with it and see what works well on your body. So to sum it up, I would first look at the length of the cuff, maybe add a few more rounds. Maybe look at your gauge. If it's not falling in the 7.5 to 8.5 stitches per inch, you might want to go down a needle size. You will have to make other adjustments on your sock if you do that, but it will lead to better fitting, longer lasting socks. And then lastly, if you do need to reduce the stitch count, knock a couple stitches off. In 4s usually works best. So knock 4 stitches off for the cuff. You can always add them back in when you do your first round of stockinette. So that would be my suggestion. If anyone else has any suggestions for Becky, please leave them down below. Oh, and I guess you could always change from a 2x2 ribbing to something different, a 1x1 or a 2x1. Lots of things to try. Next question is from Esther. I'm knitting my first German short row heel and it doesn't fit right. What adjustment should I make? It feels too small and the stitches are very stretched, especially around the corners of the heel. The two things I'm considering are to go up a needle size for the whole sock after the ribbing. The sock is color work and I had not increased needle size the first time because the stitch count increased for the color work portions. The pattern said you may not need to go up a needle size. Or I might frog back to the beginning of the heel and add a few rows of stockinette on the back half of the sock before and after the heel to make it deeper. Which of these options would you suggest? Or maybe you have a different suggestion entirely. Thank you. Love your podcast. Like I said, so many interesting sock questions. So I'm realizing in the moment that I didn't read through this entire question before selecting it because I was reading about the German short row heel, but now I'm seeing that your sock is color work, and I think that may be more of the problem than the heel itself because color work socks are so tricky to fit. With socks, as I was just talking about, you want negative ease, but you also need stretch to have negative ease because you want it to fit snug. But color work, just the nature of the stitches, having the strands on the back, it doesn't really have stretch. It certainly doesn't expand and contract like a rib can do, or even just a stockinette with an animal fiber. So this is tricky. I like where you're going here with the different suggestions. So I would definitely, I would look at a couple things again. So for me, whenever I do color work, whether it's a sock or a sweater, I do go up a needle size for the color work section. So your rib would be one thing, your color work would be a different thing. If you're doing the heel, you would go back to your rib needle and then go back to your color work needle for the rest of the sock. Now, I am very hesitant to ever put color work in the foot of a sock just because of those fit issues, and it may not be comfortable. So I'm kind of curious if your sock has color work in the foot, meaning that you've got color work coming over the top half, here's your foot, the top half of your ankle, right? And it's causing that strain and that stretch. I know it's a very cute look, so you probably do want to keep color work in the foot of the sock if you have it. But a lot of times, if a sock has color work in it, I will only do it in the leg, and then I'll just do stockinette for the rest of the sock because I personally just don't like having that strain in the sock. So if it does have collar work in the foot and you're already having issues with the fit, I think you are going to need, you're definitely going to need more room, and you can do that with more stitches. So that brings me to but the first thing I was going to suggest just with short row heels in general. What I really like to have in a short row heel is extra stitches. That way, if I have extra stitches, I have more rows, which increases the depth of the short row heel, and I have more width to fit around that part of the ankle. So my favorite thing to do is but 1 inch before you are going to get to the heel. So the last inch of the leg, I am increasing on the stitches that are going to hold the heel. So whatever half, if it's the first half or the second half, doesn't matter. Whatever half of your stitches is going to have the heel, I start to increase on either side of that needle if you're doing magic loop. And I can't say for sure how many you're going to need. Somewhere between 6 and 10 for most people really does the trick. So increasing 2 stitches every other row until you have 6 to 10 extra stitches. That way, when you do the short rows, you have more depth, you have more width, and then after that, you can decrease back to your original stitch count. Now, if this is all sounding very like, what is she talking about? I do teach this in my Perfect Fit Sock class. We don't use the German short row heel. I teach the fish lips kiss heel, but we talk about all of this, even the kind of the cuff stuff. I talk about how to measure each part of your leg and foot, then figure out your gauge, figure out your numbers, how to increase and decrease, and do all of that. So if you're somebody who loves to explore and experiment, then go for it with those suggestions. But if you're and not specifically you, Esther, in general. If anyone is like, ooh, I would love to customize my sock, but I don't want to figure it out on my own, my Perfect Fit sock course is available on demand at any time, which just means I've pre-recorded all the videos. So you purchase the course, you watch them through, a few videos come out every week automatically for you, and then I'm available if you have questions via email or via the platform. So that's what I would suggest for you. In addition, I think you did suggest I would only go up a needle size for the collar work, not for the heel, because then you're going to get your stitches will be too loose for the heel. Where did you say? I think you said adding extra fabric to the beginning, adding a few rows of stockinette on the back half of the sock before and after the heel. I would take back to 1 inch. I would add 1 inch of stockinette fabric and add some increases in there. So on that back half, you're increasing every other row on each side. You then work your short row heel with those extra stitches, then you decrease them back down underneath the foot. This really helps to give extra depth and extra room to any type of short row heel. And for me, it's been the best change that I've been able to make for my sock fit. Okay, let's do something other than socks. Okay, this one's from Brittany. Hey, Natalie, I've been watching your podcast for a while now, and I really enjoy catching up with you each and every week. Thank you. I have a question about potential major errors in paid-for patterns. For instance, I have been working from a cardigan pattern that I picked because I liked the texture stitch pattern. However, the method outlined in the pattern isn't yielding the same results as shown in the sample photos. I checked my pattern again, and I'm doing it as written. When I look at the Ravelry projects, other people have noted the same thing and shared a method that does yield the results that are shown in the sample. But it's a completely different stitch from what the pattern instructs. I'm planning on carrying on as is at this point because I still like the fabric I'm making, but I'm curious to know if you or anyone else has ever come across a situation like this. Thank you in advance. Drive safe. Okay, that's a really interesting question. I can only think of one pattern right now where there was a major error, and I did contact the designer and they said nobody had told them. So that's where I'm going to go with this right now, because as somebody who has designed things in the past, if I was a designer, I would want to know this. And if I did know this, there is no way that I would leave my pattern the way that it was, because I would want to fix it, right? I would want people to be able to make the thing that I'm making. What I've learned from talking to lots of people who are designers, from doing lots of patterns, etc., is that there's no one standard way that a designer combs through their pattern. And it's always a possibility that there's going to be a mistake. Even in professionally published things like books and magazines, they have to enter in errata. They have a spot on their website, or sometimes a book insert that says, hey, oops, like we messed up this one stitch counter, or we mess up this one row or whatever. So like that does happen. But if multiple people are seeing a problem in a specific size, the designer needs to know. So what I would do, me as a consumer, if I notice an error in a pattern, first I check 10 times, because most of the time, and I'm not saying this for you, Brittany, but most of the time for me, if I'm thinking there's a mistake, it's because I'm making a mistake. So I will check like tons and tons of times, and you've already done that. You've checked yours, you've gone on Ravelry and seen other people are having the same problem. This is a step you've already done. Next, I would see, how does the designer like to be contacted? For a lot of people, it's going to be email. They usually have it in their patterns, like contact me or just contact info. I wouldn't contact them in any other way than they desire to be contacted, because that is the professional way they want to be contacted. I say this just because it can be hard when you get on Instagram and then you have a message that requires like a long and thoughtful response. It is, for me, as somebody who responds to messages, I am much more likely to give a long and thoughtful response when I'm sitting on my computer doing my email. If I get something on Instagram that I'm like, oh gosh, that's going to take a long time to respond, I'm gonna skip it, and then it's gonna get buried. And anyway, just look at the way the designer wants to be contacted, and then let them know what has happened. Let them know what size you're making, what pattern you're making, where you are in the pattern, all the specifics, what's going on. Send pictures if you can, and then do it in a nice, kind way. Letting them know that you really love the pattern, you really want to work on it, and you really like the end result, and you just want to get that result. And then it is in their hands. How they take it is how they take it. It's their responsibility. Hopefully they will see it. And I think Amy just got home, so we're probably going to get some dogs barking here in a second. But anyway, let them take it how they take it, and hopefully they see it and they receive it and they're like, oh my gosh, I had no idea, because nobody wanted to reach out to me. That's the other thing that I hear a lot is like, designers don't know because testers are scared to tell them, or consumers are scared to tell them, and then they just don't know. So I would err on the side that the designer doesn't know, and contacting them would actually be very helpful. If it were me, I would want somebody to let me know. Okay, the dogs aren't barking, so we're just going to carry on. Next question is from Anna. Hi there, I'm a crocheter who started watching you when you made your granny blanket, and I've watched you ever since. I know how to knit basic stitches and ribbing and have made a rectangular scarf, but I'm struggling to find a good first project to dive into. Do you have any recommendations or suggestions? Thank you. I love this question. Okay, so first off, you've already made your first project if you already made a scarf, because that's a big, long project. So congratulations, you have already done it. But if you're looking for a great next project, my suggestion is always going to be a hat. And I'll tell you why. So you've already mastered the basic stitches. Actually, I would say you've already gone beyond the basics if you can use knitting and purling together, if you've completed your first project. You've knit flat, but it sounds like you haven't knit in the round yet. And I think this is a really great place to go into next, because a lot of knitters, or a lot of people are taught to knit on straight needles. And then when they go to do their first project that is circular or in the round, they use circular needles. And then they transfer into where they only use circular needles. So, oh crap. My only project that's on circular needles that's not in the round is my shawl. So I'm not going to show that yet. So here's an example of a hat, a circular needle project that needs to be on circular needles because it's in the round. Okay, now close your eyes for a second if you're not looking at the MKAL, because I'm going to show an example of a project that's flat but on circular needles. Close your eyes. I'll tell you when to come back. So as you can see, I am working a project that is flat, as in it's not joined in the round, but I'm using the same type of needles. Okay, I'm putting that away. You're safe to come back. No more MKAL. So I think a hat is a good place to go, because you do need circular needles to work in the round, but then I think it transforms you into having the capability to use those type of needles. Maybe you are already. Here's another reason why I love hats. Hats start out, most of them, at the brim. The only new skill you're going to need is how to join in the round and use circular needles. They're very similar to straight needles, just a little bit easier to hold, I think. So you'll already have the skills to do knit one, purl one. You'll just need those working in the round skills. So you'll do that for a couple of inches, master working on circular needles, and then you get into the main body of the hat. Here is where it's so fun to try out new types of stitches. You could pick a hat that has a texture pattern, so knits and purls, but not ribbed, in a different sort of way, where you could kind of learn to start keeping up with pattern repeats. There's pattern repeats in crochet, there's pattern repeats in knitting. You could pick something that has a cable in it. Cables are one of those types of stitches that look really hard, but once you watch like one video on how to do them, they're a really cool way to do easy stitches that look really fancy. So hats are really just a low stakes way to try out new things. Like, I will say this to everyone who wants to try something new. You want to try color work? Make a hat first. You want to try mosaic knitting? Make a hat. I think that was a question a couple of weeks ago. And then the other thing that you're going to learn in a hat is decreasing, which may be something you haven't done yet if you've only made something that's rectangular. So you can learn how to decrease at the top of the hat. And by the time you get to the top of the hat, apologies for the abrupt interruption. It wasn't even the dogs or me coughing. It was the camera this time. It got too hot, so I had to give it a little bit of a break. but we're back. And how good is the lighting right now? It's gotten a little cloudy outside. It's like so nice. So let's try to pick back up where we were here. I was talking about making a hat as a great second project. I think I'd gotten all the way up to the decreases, but what I hadn't mentioned yet is you'll learn also when you're doing the crown of a hat, another way to knit in the round. So one way to knit in the round is with circular needles, but you can only go so small. And when you have to get to like the tippy top of a hat, you need something even smaller. So that's where you will learn another new skill, like knitting with magic loop, which is a long circular needle that you fold in half. You keep half of your stitches on one needle, half on the other, and you work half at a time. Or you could learn double pointed needles, which looks a little bit intimidating because there's a lot of needles going on. But I want you to not think that it's too scary, because all you're essentially doing, you're still working 2 needles at a time. You have one needle that's free, one that you're working off of, and then you shift over to the next one. So it's all things that can be learned in bite-sized amounts, and you will get a lot of a lot of knowledge for your knitting in a hat. All right, let's move on. I think this is the last question. This is a few questions about Sweet Toaster. 1, how do you help Toaster avoid getting his toe beans caught in blankets? My husband is opposed to me making a doggy blanket because our pup is always getting their nails caught in things. 2, how do you keep up with Toaster's care on the road? And 3, has he been able to get any special shots or had any reactions, been silly about anything he hasn't seen before? Okay, good question. So let's talk about the blanket one first. I've only made one blanket for Toaster. I made him a crocheted blanket, and so far, no issues with his nails getting stuck. Toaster is a medium-sized dog. He's about 40 pounds, and his nails are pretty thick, so I don't think they are as likely to get caught in between stitches as maybe a smaller dog's would. Also, in the blanket that I did, there's not any large holes. So far, so good. We usually don't put the blanket underneath him, only on top of him, and that helps as well. I think anytime you make something for a pet, just know that it may get a little roughed up, and that's just okay. So I don't really have any specific suggestions except to maybe just think about making blankets that have smaller openings. The blanket I made was crochet, but fingering weight, so the stitches are close together. How do I keep up with Toaster's care on the road? So Toaster gets baths every other month. He doesn't need to get any grooming except for his nails trimmed, which is really nice. So he's a super low maintenance dog. So we have just been taking him to PetSmart on the road, which we can find just about anywhere. He already has a profile set up with PetSmart with all of his, past history, vaccinations, the special shampoo that he needs, and everything. I want to say that the last PetSmart and person who groomed him or gave him a bath was one of the best we've had. She did his nails super, super well, and he does a great job when he's there. As far as vet things, I took him to the vet in Tennessee right when we moved, just to make sure, does he need anything? I wanted to establish a relationship with a new vet so that we had someone, if something happened, that we could call. And then he has his regular annual appointment coming up in November, and we're going to be I guess it would have been in December. So we're just going to do it a little early because we'll be in Tennessee in November where my parents live. So that's all been pretty good. There's not really anything else. I mean, we can still get his food, his treats. We have his medicine. That's all that Toaster really needs. He's a pretty low maintenance dog. And then any special shots or had any reactions or been silly about anything he hasn't seen. I want to say that you're saying shots like photographs, but then because of the care before, I'm like, wait, is this like shots like vaccines? But we haven't really been getting anything too okay, so I am getting pictures of yarn stores along the way and skeins of yarn. Kent is getting photos of Toaster. Actually, I guess this is kind of a Toaster thing, but photos of our van and Toaster in front of college stadiums. But we haven't really done anything just for Toaster, and we take tons of pictures of him, of course. I have a picture of him with his 2 front paws up on the ledge overlooking the Grand Canyon, which is kind of cool, but we haven't really done anything super special. I'm trying to think if he's had any reactions to things. He did see an elk He was in the van at the time, thank goodness, but the elk was walking through the campsite in the Grand Canyon, and he did bark at it, but I was there. I guess I was in the van and I was like, stop! We do not want this elk coming over here near us. Anything else that he's done? He's reacted, like he's had a hard time in the car, but he's getting better. I actually just bought him, actually Amy got it for him, but this very fluffy, like, you know what are those things called? Squashmallows or something? Is that the right word? They're those big stuffed animal thing that are like really fluffy like a pillow. It's not that brand, but it's basically one of those. I wanted to get him something that when he's sitting on the floorboard in the front, that he can rest his chin on, that's soft. So we're gonna try that once we get on the road here again. And then he's been doing better in the car. Like he definitely has improved since August, but something that he really loves doing that we didn't really train him on, but he's been handling so well, is coming with us to any type of patio. So if we're having a beer, having a meal, just hanging out, coffee shop, whatever, we want to have him with us as much as possible so that he's not cramped up in the van. And he's been handling that really, really well. He also loves meeting people, and he loves going into people's homes. So something that he'll do sometimes is he will, like if we're taking a walk, he will try to go into buildings or into people's homes, like not actually, but kind of, start up their driveway or whatever, because he just wants to be somewhere cozy. So he's having the best time right now being here at my friend Amy's, because he's used to coming here. He gets along with her dogs. So he's getting very spoiled and having so much fun with that. But he also had a good time when we made some new friends and stayed with them when we were in New Mexico and in California. So that's been really, really sweet and special to see him do. Okay, I think that's everything for questions. If you do have any questions for me, be sure to leave them down below. Please put #question in front so it's easy for us to find and answer in the next podcast. I've had a few new videos come out since the last podcast episode because last week I took a break from the podcast and did 2 Rhinebeck videos. So last week on Tuesday was our Rhinebeck Volume 1. It includes everything that we did on Friday. So Rhinebeck is a town where the New York Sheep and Wool Festival is held. But now there are other events that go on Friday. So we separated the vlog into 2 different things, the Friday and then the New York Sheep and Wool Festival. So the first vlog includes Cake Palooza. We went to the first time slot of that. Then we went to Indian Tangled, and then we went to Woolen Folk. So it includes all of that, plus a little bit of vlogging in between. It was a very busy day. If you don't go and watch that video, I will just say that 3 events is too many. And I feel like we're going to be narrowing it down a lot next year and doing something a little bit different. And then the second video that came out on Thursday in place of the podcast was our Rhinebeck Volume 2 video. So this one includes the New York Sheep and Wool Festival, the only one that's actually in Rhinebeck, plus a lot of other stuff that we got up to. So we went to a few booths, we met a bunch of people, and then at the end of that video, myself, Amy, whose house I'm staying at now, and Brianna of the Little Wolf Knits, we were all staying in a house together. We sit down and we talk about everything that we bought. So I think that one's really fun. I'm not always the type of person who's like, maybe you aren't either, but like into necessarily just straight up like haul videos. I actually kind of hate the word haul. I don't know why. So I call it a show and tell, but I'm not always into those, but I think it was really fun to have other people in the video with me. I think it went really well. I think it came out very well. It's very casual, very relaxed. And then you also get to see things that are different from what I would normally buy. Like I kind of buy similar things all the time, although somebody did say they were proud of me for not getting pink yarn. And I made my first purchase at Rhinebeck this year. I actually have never bought any yarn at Rhinebeck before, and I bought some yarn and some other things. But you get to see things that Amy bought, things that Brianna bought. Brianna is currently very into spinning, so you get to see some spinning stuff, which is cool. Anyway, I think it was just a really fun video, so I hope you enjoyed those 2. And then the next Tuesday, the Tuesday that just passed, is our back to our yarn store tour. So McKinney Knittery is in McKinney, Texas. It's about, depending on where you are in Dallas, 20 to 30 minutes north. I guess if you're in like southern Dallas, it's a little further, but it is worth any amount of driving. This store is amazing. It's one that I used to go to frequently when I was living in Dallas, even though for me, being like south of Dallas, it would take me an hour to get there on the weekends. So worth it. It's a great store, and it was a really fun tour because we had, I want to say 5 or 6 of their employees take us around different parts of the store. Half the store is yarn and it is jam-packed, more than half really. And then the other half is called Downtown Dry Goods, and it's fabrics. They have a really big area to sit and knit or crochet. They have 2 tables actually, also a classroom. I mean, they have a really cool story too, because they started out in a really small location and have just grown from there. So it's a really, really cool one, and one kind of close to my heart. So I hope you enjoy all of those videos. And then coming up next week, we have another yarn store tour. This one is the Hands-On Knitting Center in Redlands, California. And now I'm like, wait, is it Redland or Redlands? I should have made absolute certain, but this one's very cool because it is a co-op. It is owned by 11 women, which is very cool. We also had a lot of them involved in our tour, which I love. And it's a really cool and really special one. When we were traveling there for this tour, one of my Love and Stitches members, or somebody I met through Love and Stitches, Gretchen, she is a part owner, and she invited us to come do the tour and invited us to stay at her house. So it kind of marked a cool part of van life where we started staying with people that we may not have ever met in person before, and just really opened up some really nice, nice connections and nice moments and everything for us. So it was really cool. Okay, so what's coming up as far as events? So the first one, this is not coming up super soon, but the signups are coming up soon, or the ticket sales, I guess. Yarny Gras. So Yarny Gras is an event put on in New Orleans by Indie Untangled, something that we just went to in Rhinebeck this weekend. Adjacent to Rhinebeck. I don't know if it's adjacent to anything else. I needed to look and see if there's another reason like festival or if it's just an independent event. But we are planning to go to Yarny Gras. I don't know the exact date. It's at the end of January, but the signups are November 4th. So we're going to be getting our tickets, heading down to New Orleans in January to go to Yarny Gras. It's a one-day event. So if you're local, it's a great thing to come to. I don't know how many years they've put it on. This is at least the second year, but I'm very excited to go. There's lots of vendors that I'm excited to see that I have seen in Dallas, and I want to see them again. So it's going to be a fun one. Another thing that's coming up is the Love and Stitches membership is opening on December 5th. That's a Tuesday. We are going to be opening for about 4 days or until we fill all of our new member spots. And this is for I'm calling it like the winter membership because it's a 4-month membership. So it's December, January, February, and March. So 4 months that you'll be signing up for. And in the Love and Stitches membership, we do a variety of things. All in all, it's a community space. So we do, I would say, anywhere from 2 to 4 social events every single month online. They are recorded, so if you're not able to make one, you are able to watch it later. We do things like interviews, classes. Sometimes we just get on and we hang out. We just knit and crochet and chat. We also have a community space on Discord, which if you've done that during Sock Week, it's kind of like that, but just amplified and bigger. We've been doing a lot of exclusive yarns this year. So I was talking about with Pretty Twisted Yarns, we have a special colorway at the end of November. So it's going to be not with the new members, but with our current members. We're going to get to interview Teresa and see her dye the yarn for us. But then both the members currently and the new members that join us in December will have access to order that yarn. And then we're going to do a Christmas Eve cast on party. You don't have to celebrate Christmas, of course, in order to cast on with us. It's just a December 24th cast on party. So like that's some of the things that we do. They're not all that big. It varies, but we have lots of fun things coming up. in this term. We always have at least one make-along going on, sometimes two. And then we also have like a variety of other things like member-led Zooms and book club and trying to think what else. Oh, swaps. We have swaps. We're doing an Advent swap right now and a Secret Santa one. And then we'll have some going on in the new year as well. So it's very fun. You can get all the information about it with the link down below. If you're interested, I would suggest putting your name on the wait list. It's not a wait list in a sense that like only people on there can sign up. It's more of like, if you sign up, you'll be the one to get email reminders when things open up. And then the last thing is that Vlogmas is about a month away. So I'm going to be doing Vlogmas again this year. It is going to be I think I started in 2018, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. 6th year of Vlogmas. Wow, that's crazy actually. So I am excited. We're going to be, it's funny because we're actually not going to be doing like going through as many states as we have been going through this past, like in the earlier months of the year. But we're going to be in Florida. So hopefully that will be fun. We've gone to Florida a lot during December. But Vlogmas is essentially just a short daily video. I'll be opening up my mini advents that I have somehow ended up with. We'll be playing the guessing game again this year. I will be showing you snippets of our daily life and things that we're getting up to. And that will be uploading every single day from December 1st to the 25th, which is really fun. Sorry, I have an itch on my nose. So that's coming up as well. It'll be here on the YouTube channel. There's nothing you have to do. It will just be a part of it. And I will also continue podcasting in December. I know that not everyone is a Vlogmas person or like wants to keep up with Vlogmas, or maybe you like to watch it in January to get you through January. But I will also continue podcasting just so I can keep up with all of my projects and everything as well. Okay, that's it for news. Let's move on to the next one. The sun's just come back out. So nice. Okay, life. So when we last recorded the podcast, and by we, I mean, I guess me and all my personalities, it was October 15th. Was that even right? That was the Sunday, I think. I think it was October 14th. So it's been, I'm looking at my calendar, just over 2 weeks. So lots has happened then. Not only have we crossed the country, we've also just gotten to a lot of different things. One of our friends got married. We went to Rhinebeck. We went to the city. There's been a lot going on. So October 15th, that was the wedding day for my friend Brooke. Kent was the flower man, and it was very, very cute. He not only threw flower petals, but also handed out to the appropriate aged people airplane bottles of liquor, which was very funny. He kept things entertaining. They also had just the cutest photo booth there. It was a little like red van. Anyway, we took the cutest photos, and it was so sweet because they had, you know how when you do a photo booth, it prints out 2 copies. So we got to keep a copy, and then the person that was there manning it, like took one of the copies, glued it into a guest book, and then you signed it. And I just thought that was the smartest thing to do. So Brooke, great idea. Hopefully that gives other people a fun idea for their weddings. After the day after the wedding, actually that night, we drove from Lyons, Colorado, where the wedding was, about an hour south, closer into Denver, so that we could stay at a Love's, be uncomfortable intentionally, so that it was easy for us to get up and go early in the morning. It's not really uncomfortable to be at a Love's, but we had stayed the previous 2 nights in a campsite. So it gets us a little quicker to get up and go in the morning, because we knew we had a solid days worth of driving. And I'm not talking about like one actual day, like the total trip was more than a day. I actually took a screenshot of the Google Maps, and this is not just, I don't think this was all the way to Rhinebeck. This was to where we stayed the night before our final day of driving. And I think it says 24 hours, one whole day of driving. So we split it up over 3 days plus one final day, Thursday, where we were checking into our Airbnb for Rhinebeck weekend. So on Monday, we drove from Colorado and I think across most of Kansas. I better bring up a map right now just so I don't sound like I don't know my geography, even though I don't. So let me just zoom out here on my maps. Yeah, we left Colorado. We drove across Kansas. And then I guess now I'm confused. Did we go into Missouri? Let me just type in Lyons, Colorado to Rhinebeck, New York. I want to say we did not go into Missouri and we went into Nebraska, but now I'm kind of confused. Come on, you can do it. There we go. Okay, across Nebraska, I guess I'm sorry, we didn't go into Kansas. We went into Nebraska. So Colorado all the way across Nebraska that first day. I think we stayed the night in Iowa, and then we spent most of Tuesday in Iowa because we did not get very far on our driving. We had a lot of work we needed to do. We had a lot of fun over the wedding weekend and did not get ourselves together enough. So we drove across Iowa kind of later that night through Chicago and into Indiana, and stayed in Indiana on our second night, Tuesday. And then our last big day of driving was Wednesday. We drove from Indiana through Ohio. I'm going to get back to that in a second. And then across most of Pennsylvania and stayed in Pennsylvania on Wednesday night, which left us then on Thursday morning with about 3 hours of driving to do to get to our Airbnb in Kingston, New York, which is just across the river from Rhinebeck. So it was quite a bit of driving. Kent did the majority of it, but I did help. I did do quite a bit of driving, some so he could work, some so he could sleep. We just kind of powered through. It was a lot, and I don't think we're going to have to do any big drives like that on our journey at all again. That was only because we needed to be in Colorado for the wedding and then in Rhinebeck 4 days later. So hopefully that won't happen again. We did have one kind of, oh gosh, what is happening moment when we were that Thursday morning. The morning we were like, oh great, this is going to be an easy day. We have 3 hours to drive to our Airbnb. We got up early. We went to a Planet Fitness so we could shower, get ready, refresh. We come back out to the car, put it into drive, put things into maps. We're ready to go, start driving, and the car makes this horrendous squeaking sound. We had no idea what it was. At first we thought it was the brakes, and then it just sounded so bad. We never made it out of the Planet Fitness parking lot. We pulled over, and this really nice guy, again, we're in Pennsylvania, this really nice guy comes up to Kent. Kent's like outside looking around the car. I'm in the driver's seat, and says that he thinks it's something to do with our tire. And so they get the tire jack out from the passenger seat and lift the car up, and they end up taking the tire off and found inside, like the tire, not the well, but like after you pull the tire off, whatever that is, a tiny rock. Popped that out, put the tire back on. I mean, this all took like an hour and a half, but it was a very simple solution to something that probably would have delayed us a really long time had we not had someone helping us. We probably would have called AAA or something like that, and then it would have taken longer to figure out what it was. Anyway, this guy was the best. Turns out he's, I think, from Tennessee or Texas or both or something like that. Anyway, he saved us that day, and we only were about, I think, 45 minutes late to where we were supposed to meet our friends for Rhinebeck at lunch. So then we made our way up to Rhinebeck, and the rest is Rhinebeck weekend history. Stayed in Kingston in an Airbnb. We're staying in the same place next year because it was just so nice to have a house, a nice big house. We all got to spread out, have our own bathrooms. I did a tour of it in the second Rhinebeck video, the one that went out on Thursday. And it was just super nice. So we're staying there again for next year. On Thursday, we hung out in the town of Kingston, had dinner with some friends, did a cider tasting. There's a wine store or a yarn store slash like wine bar there. They also serve wine and beer and cider and different things. So we hung out there in the afternoon, then went to dinner, which was great. And the next day was that Friday that was crazy. And then Saturday and Sunday, or Saturday was also very busy with Rhinebeck. And then Sunday we went to Rhinebeck, but then got to just, because we had booked our Airbnb through Tuesday, we got to come home on Sunday and just hang out. We had a few friends over. We ordered dinner in. It was really, really nice. The only mishap that happened is I went to pick up dinner and I hate roundabouts. And I took a wrong turn at a roundabout, and the exit that I took on the roundabout went onto the highway. And so there was nowhere to turn around for 9 miles, I think, 7 or 9 miles. So I wasted a lot of time doing that. Had to basically go across the bridge into Rhinebeck, turn around and come back. Luckily, Addie of Ruby and Roses was with me to save the day and direct me back into the right place and make sure I didn't exit the wrong place in the roundabout on the way back. So that was really fun. Oh, actually, sorry. I'm going to go back in time for a second to when we were making our way to Rhinebeck. I forgot to say this. On Wednesday, I think it was Wednesday when we were in Ohio, we stopped at a national park. It is the, I looked up how to say this earlier, but now I forgot. I think it's Cuyahoga, I think, or Cuyahoga. I think it's Cuyahoga Valley National Park in Ohio. It's a really pretty place, like kind of like on a river. It was interesting. I think a lot of people go there to hike, but we didn't go very far down the path at all. There's a beautiful bridge that kind of crosses over this river. And then Kent, of course, was getting his junior ranger badge. So Toaster and I, it was a dog-friendly national park. Toaster and I went on the scavenger hunt with him that was part of this junior ranger badge. And that was actually pretty fun because it took us to different places around the park. There was even a spot where you had to find this Tupperware that was hidden underneath a porch and open it up, and there was a stamp in there that you stamped into your junior ranger badge book, and then also a log to sign, which was very cool. It's kind of like geocaching. Okay, so back to Rhinebeck weekend. Rhinebeck weekend is over. It's Monday. We still had our Airbnb through Tuesday, but Brianna and Amy and Ian all decided to go home on Monday evening. But it was nice because we didn't have to get up and rush out on Monday morning because we still had our Airbnb one more night. So Kent and Toaster and I had the whole house to ourselves on Monday night. It wasn't that exciting because we were working to get our Rhinebeck videos edited and ready for the week. So we worked pretty much most of that day. But it was all for a good cause, because then the next few days we got to spend some time in New York City with our friends Addie and Devin of Ruby and Roses. So Tuesday morning we woke up really early, I think like 5:30 or something, and we drove from upstate New York down through New York, through New Jersey, to here to drop off Lydia, our van, and Toaster, our dog, and then turn right around and take the train into New York City. We barely made it, but we made it. So it was about almost 3-hour drive down, and then another 2 hours into the city. So by the time we got there, we were like, whew, exhausted. And it was only 2:00 in the afternoon, I think, at that point. So we got some lunch. We ended up staying with our friend Eddie, who lives in the building right across from where we lived. So it was very surreal walking to his apartment to drop off our bags, because it felt like we were getting back from vacation and like going to our apartment. So it felt really weird to not then go into our building and go up to our apartment. It was just very strange. I have to say, New York City really feels like home. So it was a little bit bittersweet being there. I know we only lived there for 2 years, but I think it was some very fundamental years of our adulthood. And so I don't know. It was bittersweet for sure. So Tuesday evening, we met up with Addie and Devin, who were staying for a few days in New York City and seeing the city for the first time. So we wanted to give them, a good time. So we took them to all the favorites, Times Square. We took a ferry so they could see the water and see the city from the water. We took them to our favorite places to eat, our favorite omakase sushi place the first night. Took them to our favorite Italian place. I got my favorite gnocchi, and Devin was like, oh my gosh, this is the best gnocchi I've ever had. Of course, we had to get pizza. We went to Central Park. We went to Knitty City. We just did everything we could in those basically 48 hours that we had together. And then Wednesday night we saw Shucked. They wanted to see a Broadway show. And so we're like, okay, do you want to see something funny or do you want to see something more serious? And they said something funny. So we got tickets for Shucked, and Eddie went with us too. And it was so much better the second time. It was fine the first time, but I think because Shucked relies on so many jokes, now that we've been listening and listening and listening to the cast recording, we hear all the jokes now, and it was really enjoyable. I knitted on my Musselburgh hat during the show, and it was fantastic. So Thursday morning, we got up and we spent a little time in the city, and then it was time to come back to New Jersey. So we got on the train, came back to New Jersey, and that's where we are here now at our friend's house. Did a little bit of work on Friday and Saturday, but then got to just really relax this weekend. So basically our time here going forward, we're here for like another 6 days. I think it's a long time, which is very generous of Amy and Ian to let us stay here for so long. But coming here, because we came here a lot while we lived in the city, does feel like coming to family, even though we're technically not family. And I call Amy Aunt Amy for Toaster. But it feels like coming home in a way too. So basically what we're doing here is we're working a lot. We're getting to recoup, hanging out with the puppies, having wine and cheese on their beautiful patio. Like, the weather is so nice. I'm like, okay, it's only 3:30 now, but when I'm done with work in like an hour, we're gonna go have some wine and cheese on the patio and knit. Toaster loves it here. Some nights he's not even sleeping with us. He's staying with Amy. It's fall, like truly fall here. We've been taking lots of walks with the dogs, and the trees are beautiful. They live close to town, so you can walk into town, get a coffee. I mean, it's just been super, super nice. So I'm having a great, great time. I finally have finished reading A Court of Wings and Ruin. I finished it last night and I cried. So when I first started reading A Court of Thorns and Roses, you know that I didn't really care for it because it's my first time reading a world building fantasy book like that. And they're slow for me to read. I think it took me 3 or 4 weeks to read this one. But I like it now. Like, it's different. It's a different kind of read. I'm happy to now read something else for a little bit and then get back to it. You know what I mean? So I don't think I'm a super fan. Like, I know a lot of people are, but I was surprised that the end of the book made me very emotional. There were definitely a few times where I was like, oh my gosh, no. Or like, just saying things reading on my own. And I feel like that's a mark of a very good book. We have also watched a couple of movies while being here. When we're on the road, we do not have a ton of time to watch things. Basically, that time is taken up by driving. But we watched a spooky movie last night. It's called The Killer Next Door. It was on Hulu, and it was cheesy. It was a thriller. It wasn't super scary, but a thriller. Not the highest end movie, but it was all right. And then both Amy and I over the weekend were like, I think I want to watch a Christmas movie. I just want to watch something easy. So we put one on. It was awful. So we switched to another one. I think this was a Lifetime movie called The Holiday Fix-Up. It was also not the greatest production quality of a movie, but it was sweet and cute, and we enjoyed it. Okay, I think that's everything I've been listening and reading to, and I have a personal tip of the week for you. I always try to think of something for tip of the week that's something that I've used in the previous week. That doesn't always happen because, I don't know, I'm not always thinking up things that I've done, but this week something happened to me and I don't want it to happen to anyone else. So I want to talk about a Go kit that you can create for your project bag. You can make multiple ones of these. I just have one. This is something that I found really helpful to have next to me on the couch while I'm knitting. And then if I am going out to knit or going on a vacation, for example, or like when I was going into the city for a few days, you have this with you and it has all the things you need for your projects that you might like any kind of situation that you might run into. Finishing tools, stuff like that. I'm going to go through what's in here. What happened to me specifically this week is that I took a project, my MKAL, I'm not going to show it, that is on interchangeable needles. So one set of stitches is on the interchangeable cord with the needle tips that I was currently working on. The other set of stitches was on the interchangeable cord with the end caps on it. Well, I finished up the knitting that I was doing on the side with the needles. So I'm like, great, now I'm gonna move the needles over to this side to work it, move the caps over to this side, right? But I didn't bring, of course, my whole interchangeable needle kit. And guess what I didn't have in my go bag? I didn't have one of those tools to unscrew the needle tips so that I could keep knitting. And I tried using something you can do in a pinch. I guess this is a bonus tip. So this is the tool that I have. This is the one that comes with my Lantern Moon. It is like a little handled thing that has a little tiny tip thing. I can't tell. It looks so blurry, but I can't really tell because it's so bright right now that I can't really see the screen. Hang on just a second. I think I need to fix this. All right, that's a little better. Now you can see, but it's just like a little wooden handle with this little tool so that you can change your needles. So actually, there's something else I need to put in here because this is what the problem was. I had tightened my needle so well that I couldn't turn it. I didn't have that tool, but what you can do, I'm pulling everything out of here. What you can do in a pinch is you can take a light bulb stitch marker and you can take the end of it and you can open it up and then you can stick that into the hole and twist it. But because I had twisted it so well, this wasn't strong enough and there's nothing else that I had small enough to use. So I also have a rubber, like a jar opener. ChowGoo includes this like rubber heart. It's very small that you can use to then turn and tighten your needle and then also get them untightened. So have your tools with you. So this is what I have in my little go bag. And this, by the way, is from Neon Soul. I'll include the link to that. I know there's other makers that make them too. I know Black Pearl Magic makes some little ones. I've seen lots along the way. So let me pull everything out that I have in here. I feel like I just dumped some stuff out, but I don't know where it went. Oh, here it is in my lap. Okay, so here's what we've got in here. The basic things. So we've already talked about an interchangeable thing if you have interchangeable needles. A lot of times you have extra one of these. So just one of them. My other ones are with the actual needles. I also have two fix-it tools. I really don't need both of them. This one, it's a little crochet hook on one end, a little pointy like knitting needle on the other. I really don't need that. I probably just need this one. This one is a double-ended crochet hook. What I use this for is if I drop a stitch way down, it's really easy to pull up. I also use this to start Musselburgh hats because I do a crochet cast on. And then the double-ended one is great if you drop a stitch in garter because you can feed it through back and forth through the fabric and you have hooks on both ends. So those are great. This one is Susan Bates. I don't know what the other one is. No idea. I always have two tapestry needles with me. I have a bent tip one that I use for most of my weaving in ends. I realize that I pretty much only work with fingering weight, so this is the only size that I need with me, but I do have other ones in my larger bag. And then this one is, I believe, also Susan Bates. It comes in a set. This is the smallest one. This one is great for weaving in ends in crochet because you can weave in like really short ends because it's such a large eye. So I always have that. Then I have two different types of stitch markers and I keep them both clipped to a light bulb stitch marker. Apparently I've been using a lot of light bulb stitch markers because I usually have more on here. But here we go. So I have the light bulb stitch markers here. Those are always useful for counting rows or socks or where you need to put a stitch marker in when you've already started. And then just my favorite simple plain closed ring ones. If I need a beginning of round marker, if I need to mark out stitches, count. When I'm casting on a lot of stitches, I use that. And then the last two things in here are a tape measure, of course, and scissors. I have these small scissors. They work, they're small enough, the blade is short enough to go on a plane. So everything goes in here, and I'm telling you, I rarely, even when I'm at home, because I have this near me, I rarely need to go and like go into another space. You know, a lot of us don't live in a small space like I do, so I don't have to go into another room to grab the tools that I need. I have everything right next to me. So little go bag, it can save you. You can make multiple, you can stick them in your project bags, and then you always have the tools that you need. All right, that's everything for this week's episode. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.